The world is about to end, and we lose the plot. So that's the theme of this dark satire called Don't Look Up. This just came out on Netflix in limited theater run, and I was fortunate enough to see it yesterday. So in this video, I'll review Don't Look Up, and I'll look at the themes and kind of the elements of this dark satire. So please stay tuned. So Don't Look Up talks about the end of the world, and then everyone loses the plot, and that's what makes it so dark. So in the beginning of the film, two astronomers, played by DiCaprio and Lawrence, discover a comet headed straight for Earth. And when they go to Washington, D.C., they get blown off. So I'll play a couple trailer clips, and I might have to mute out some things. So the plot of the movie is that astronomers DiCaprio and Lawrence actually discover a comet that's headed directly for Earth. And they quickly discover it's a planet-killing comet that pretty much is as big as Mount Everest and mirrors the Chicxulub event. So they actually end up going to Washington, D.C., and this is where the film gets dark. So it starts off with Armageddon and goes downhill from there. About 5 to 10 minutes into the film, they actually contact the government and NASA, and they put them in touch with the Planetary Defense Coordination Office, PDCO. And this is something that is part of a really well-written feature of this film, is that this is a real office. The Planetary Defense Coordination Office actually has that patch that says Hic Cervita Diem, which loosely translates to here to save the day. Imagine going, Mighty Mouse, here to save the day! And the PDCO is actually a very real site, and I'll include the link below. They also have a Twitter handle at NASA Asteroid Watch. Which actually kind of plays into one of the big things about the film is the use of social media, or the abuse of it. So Don't Look Up is a very dark comedy because it has a lot of layers of social commentary. Big one is how social media plays into our beliefs right now. So throughout the film, there's cutscenes where they look at Twitter feeds and live feeds, YouTube videos, and all the statistics and everything that goes into those. They make fun of TikTok for creating new dangerous trends, or new dangerous challenges, and Don't Look Up really kind of satirizes how much that's influencing our culture right now. Because people are believing or not believing there's a comet based on which side of the echo chamber they fall into. So in this clip, the President and Chief of Staff, played by Meryl Streep and Jonah Hill, they listen to the astronomers and then end up basically blowing them off. Now, unfortunately, this is where the dark humor of Don't Look Up really comes in play. It really takes a dig at everything that's happening currently politically with science denial, and kind of ignoring the facts and false news. Because in it, they pretty much try and deny that the comet's coming toward us, or that it's an issue for a long time. And then when they're actually forced to acknowledge it for political reasons, it becomes a political issue. And the dark humor through this just keeps going through because it really kind of satirizes how our last election went, with President really kind of spinning the narrative around us versus them. And part of the reason this film is called Don't Look Up is because it actually becomes a political movement, much like Me Too or Show Us the Tapes or anything like that, where half half the company is divided and says, don't look up because there's a comic coming toward us, and the other half saying, don't look up because it's a political tool. And there were parts of the film that I'll admit where it's like, it was cool and it was comedic because Meryl Streep was saying it. But then if you looked at the fact that Donald Trump said something very similar, you realize how scary it was. Because here's an actual active president saying something stupid and dumb versus an actor who's clearly playing out her part. So in this part of the film, they actually try and go public with their discovery. And Jennifer Lawrence has that real passionate breakdown at the front. She ends up becoming a meme, and no one takes her seriously, or half the people take her seriously. And unfortunately, she becomes really a victim of this kind of social media backlash, because she's really kind of the most hysteric and first one to do it. Whereas Leonardo DiCaprio, he actually does some media training, or he's able to navigate media appearances a lot better and able to control his temper. Probably because he's taking about a dozen different anti-anxiety medications in the film. The other part of this is Cate Blanchett, who plays Bree, who's one of the personalities on the show. One, they end up having an affair, so it ends up being a minor plot, thankfully. It's not a major part of the film. But also throughout the film, they basically try and blow them off, or try and spin this as, hey, the world's not ending, world's not ending, but a comet's coming. And they keep trying to make it way too positive, which is really a reflection on a lot of the media culture that just looks for the quick ahs and the cute factor for every news article. And really kind of the dark theme under it is they're trying to spin the end of the world and actually doing a decent job of it. So, eesh. So, all the actors in this are actually, you could tell they're having fun with the roles. And even if the roles are kind of like dark or narcissistic or not necessarily evil but greedy, then you get to deal with a lot of things that make this movie so great. Is it's so rich, and it has multiple levels of satire that aren't super overt, but it's just the underlying foundation of the film is dark satire over a sci-fi picture. So yes, Ariana Grande has a part as a superstar musician. Her whole influencer culture thing is satirized a lot in this as well. So, in a way, Ariana Grande really kind of makes fun of herself. But also throughout the film, like, she encourages her supporters to look up and believes in the comment, and they do all sorts of weird things together. Like they're working in grassroots organizations, and they even host like a end of the world concert where Ariana Grande has this whole big musical number where she literally has people trying to look up. And when you think about it, it mirrors a lot of the times when there's like huge political causes and all these actors get together and they all say, hey, let's support this cause, and they spend millions of dollars on a concert and get billions of dollars for it, and the satire and how close it is very real. And it's just cool that an actual musician played into this. I think it's a great way for Ariana Grande to get a start in some acting. And it kind of also parodies what some of, like, Leonardo DiCaprio is known for being in some political causes. And it really mirrors what he's done with other types of things. I understand Cate Blanchett's done some other things. And so it kind of reflects that culture where, liberal actors in Hollywood try and have big concerts and fundraisers for huge causes. Only in this film, it's cause to recognize the end of the Earth. So this movie actually parallels the recently launched Double Asteroid Redirection Mission, or DART. And NASA's actually sending this satellite to attack a asteroid that has one orbiting the other. And they're going to actually try and knock the one that's orbiting out of orbit to see how effective a kinetic impact would be. Underneath the Planetary Defense Coordination Office, they actually talk about ways to defend the planet. And the two big ways are kinetic impactors, so that's what the DART mission is, and nuking it. So I know nukes have been a large part of our planetary defense against asteroids for movies for decades. And their thought is pretty much launch a nuke as soon as possible, try and vaporize as much as you can, and try and get it to blow itself off course. So it'll be interesting seeing how the DART missions go in the future. And hope they go good, because I don't want what happened in Don't Look Up to happen in real life. Here's where the film really goes off the rails from being just a regular Armageddon type film. They actually have a plan to launch nukes at the asteroid and knock it off. And they actually do it. They launch these, and about 5 seconds later, they abort. And the whole reason they do this is because the techno-millionaire in there, he wants to mine the asteroid for all of its valuable rare earth metals and resources for all the phones he's cranking out. And politically, he's so connected, he actually basically uses the president as his personal puppet. So, going back, the guy who plays it, so in the film, Peter Ishmael is basically a conglomerate character of like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, and every other greedy industrial capitalist, billionaire, trillionaire that we despise right now. And he actually has a lot of political control and clout over the president. So he basically puts together this new mission to mine this asteroid and break it up so the pieces land on Earth and can be mined. And, forget the consequences. Everyone will get cheap, reliable cell phone service on their network. And they literally abort their first, probably most practical mission to nuke the asteroid out of orbit, and just decide to shotgun it at Earth and hope for the best. So that whole scene really kind of sets the tone for how the rest of the film goes, because all of a sudden everyone's focused on just mining the heck out of this and making trillions and trillions of dollars. And Leonardo DiCaprio actually kind of realizes, hey, we lost the point here. So in the rest of the film, they go on and they actually try and do a bunch of different social media pushes, political campaigns, sit-ins, grassroots organizations, all sorts of things, to try and get people to actually recognize that, hey, this is an issue and we should try and knock this asteroid off course. And unfortunately, the mission fails. And so they're not going to show here in any of the videos that the world ends. But needless to say, their whole idea to break up the asteroid falls short. And in the end, we kind of see how DiCaprio kind of separates from that political group there when he's like, what does it matter if we're all dead? And if you want to see a really heartwarming ending, this actually has a great ending too, which is one of the things I love. It's not, even though the planet dies, at least everyone dies together. And there's no good way to say that. So some other things I want to point out on this. The casting on this is great. All the players work together really well. They have really good chemistry working for their respective parts. And something else that was pointed out to me, Connor Sweeney and Robert Ricotta have a minor part as playing DiCaprio's sons. And with the beard and glasses, he actually comes really close to looking like DiCaprio's son here. And so the group I was with actually pointed that out. Timothy Chalamet, no, I'm not saying that correctly at all, I'm sorry. His part is minor. He basically ends up being Jennifer Lawrence's boyfriend at the back half of the film. But he kind of plays, he helps ground out some of the gloom and doom by bringing in some faith and some religion. He does really good at balancing that. And this is kind of like the ending scene here in the film where the world ends, but they all come together as a family. There's some redemption, forgiveness, and everything else that comes along with kind of the introspection that they wanted to, everyone should have had in the film, but didn't. And that's what makes this really dark, is if they wrote it a different way, if they said, hey, the world's about to end, how do we reconcile with that? It would be more of a drama, actually more along the lines of a Hallmark movie. But the whole point of this movie is it's a satire, and it goes away from off the rails from that. And so while the rest of the world is trying to blow up this mine in a way so they can mine it, and basically act like a bunch of great capitalists, DiCaprio and the family here actually get together and celebrate everything that makes family. And that's what he was going for the whole time, but again, between the social media, politics, and just relentless capital greed, you get, at least the film ends on a nice note that they all come together and celebrate one last meal as a family. So there's a positive note, even though in the end everyone dies, or just about everyone dies. I'll let you watch the rest of the movie to see the finale. So overall, what are some other things I noticed in this? This movie is definitely a dark comedy. It's at times really too close to home, too uncomfortable, because it parallels everything that's happened recently, both in the recent elections and science denial, and the fact that, hey, we're still in a pandemic world. The satire is definitely all through that, and I could tell that all the characters really enjoyed playing their parts. They didn't overplay them or underplay them. And just the dark humor and everything was subtle, but it was there throughout the whole film. And in terms of accuracy, they had a science advisor, if I can find her name, Amy Mainzer, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And so she was a technical advisor, and I went to this movie with an aerospace engineer, and he actually commented that a lot of the math at the beginning of the film was on point. So it really started off as a sci-fi film. And what was great about that is as it went through, there was real science, and then you could tell it was prop department shooting from the hip. So there's lots of scenes where they launch rockets and have satellites and everything, and you could tell it's someone in the graphics department that kind of visited a few NASA sites and tried to at least get it right. So I'll give them credit for that they tried to make it look as though it was a real life drama over the satire. And this is a really good, if really dark, film. So if you want to see it, it's on Netflix and limited theater run at a lot of art film theaters. I was lucky enough to see it at the Mayan here in Denver. So if you get a chance to see it, I definitely recommend it. And if you ever have a question, I'll include links for all the sites, including the IMBD, the PDOC, and everything else below. So if you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please stay tuned. I'll have movie reviews in the future for autistic themed movies, including music, Rain Man, series like The Good Doctor, and others.